Okay, so this is part one in a series about how to use Unity to create a 3D first-person game environment. So I just launched Unity for the first time, typed in Unity, launched this. You might be on Learn by default. We want to come over here to Projects. We're going to click on New Project right here. Use the defaults for all of yours, except the project name. We can go ahead and give this a different name. We're just going to call this 3D Maze. Okay, and everything else should be good. So then I'm going to go ahead and hit Create Project. It's going to take a second here to load up. Yep, I'm actually going to pause the video here really quick while it loads up because it does take a minute to load. Okay, so now that this has loaded, you might get something saying there's a new version. Uncheck this, check for updates, skip new version. The version that we have is fine. And I actually don't like this layout very much, so I'm going to go to Window Layouts, and I'm going to find the default layout right there, and I'm going to click on that, and that's going to give us a little bit of a better view, at least something that's a little bit easier to work with. Now, before I do anything else, I actually want to go to the asset store here, and we're going to download some basic assets to make this a little bit more interesting. So we're going to download the first person camera as well as some basic trees and grass and things like that. So I click on the asset store, I type in standard assets, should pop up right there, made by Unity. So I click on that standard assets. It's a free thing, it comes standard with Unity, but we need to download it and then import it into our Unity project. So I click the download button. It's going to take a little bit of time to download. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video again while this downloads, but I'll make sure to resume the video after this is finished downloading. Okay, so now that it has downloaded completely, now I have this import button right there. Now I want to click on that import button to be able to import all of these assets into my game. And again, this is going to take a little bit of time, 3 or 4 minutes, so while this happens, I'm going to pause the video. Alright, so I am back here and I'm ready to import. So I just want to make sure that I click this all button right there and then click the import button, and it's going to import all of the assets that I downloaded into this program. And again, this does take some time. Okay, so my assets have been imported properly. I can tell that right down here by looking at the standard assets. So the next thing I want to do is I want to click on this scene button right here. And we're going to actually we're going to save this. So I'm going to go File, Save Project, and then I'm also going to go in Scenes right here. We only have one scene. I'm actually going to rename this to Level 1. Okay, and then we're going to actually create two more scenes. So I'm going to create another scene in here, and I'm going to call this level 2. And I'm not going to put any spaces yet between these. This was a mistake for level 1, so I'm going to come back in here to rename this. Sometimes spaces work in programming, but a lot of times they don't. So we're going to have no spaces. We got level 1, level 2, and let's create one more. We're going to have 3 different levels in here. Create a new scene, and we're going to call this level 3. And again, I made all of these in my assets folder. So we see we have scenes, standard assets. There's also sample scenes. We're not really going to use this, but it's okay that it's in there. Okay, so I go File, Save Project again, File, Save, and that should save the scene. Okay, and I want to make sure that I'm on scene 1, so I'll double click on here, double click on this level 1, and make sure it loads. Okay, so now what I need to do is first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create some terrain. So I'm going to go in here to 3D object, and I'm going to find terrain right here, and that's just going to create kind of this white giant plane right here. It's very big and expansive. Yeah. Um, and the next thing I need to do is I need to actually drop my player in here. So in order to do that, I go to Assets. I go to the standard assets right here. I click on Characters, and then I double click on First Person, and then I click on this prefabs, and there's already a first person controller set up. We're going to drag this first person controller in here, okay? And this is going to be our person that's going to kind of walk around everywhere. I can kind of bring him up a little bit. And there is actually, by default, this main camera on here. We actually want to get rid of this camera. So I'm going to right click on that camera and I'm going to click on delete. This is going to be our main camera right here. So, or the person. So in order to play this game that we have now created, very, very, very basic game, we can come up here and just hit the play button and it will take us into this game. And your first person controller WASD controls should work, and then you should be able to use your mouse to kind of look around. But there's not much to look at right now. We're just kind of standing on a white endless background that we can just kind of walk around forever. But that's it. So this is the step one in this. In order to get out of this, I hit the escape button and then I go ahead and hit that play button. Now make sure that you go file save and file save project. Both of those, when you go file save, that saves the scene. When you go file save project, that saves kind of everything together. So we want to make sure that we're saving both the project and the scene. If you forget to save one of them and you only save the other, the next time that you load the program, it's not going to work. So this is going to be part one. We're going to finish part one. Part two is going to be all about designing this terrain back here. And then part three, we're gonna get into like creating some very basic assets. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions about this one.